is up? This is Kyle with another mix tip. Today, I'm going to go over the song I did, And I Stoned You by MATLOCK. He's a rap artist out of the north side of Chicago. It's pretty cool I got to work on this because I've been listening to his music for about 9 years. This guy I used to work with turned me on to him, and around his Moonshine record. And man, I gotta tell you, man, one of the coolest lyricists. Shout out to you, Matlock. So one day, about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, maybe 6 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, I got the opportunity to work on one of his songs, and I was so excited. I'm sure you can imagine. So I asked him for permission if I could, feature his song since I worked on it and I mixed and mastered it for him. So you can see here, what I got from him was beat stem, main vocal stem. This is a track I made. This is the tracks I made. 2 backup stems, and then these hook stems. Okay. I'm gonna go over the overall mix with you guys, and I'm gonna show you a couple cool things I did on this mix to really fill it out. Okay. There's not a lot going on here, but they're all pretty good quality. So that's cool with me because the least amount of stems or plugins I gotta use, and I advocate this all the time. The less plugins you use, the better it's gonna sound, because every time you add a plugin, you're kind of taking something away. So if the plugin you're adding, and this is from Pensado's place. If you don't know Pensado's stuff, check him out on YouTube. He's got a YouTube channel. And I started my YouTube channel too, the Inphase Studio. Give it a like, subscribe, hit that subscribe button at the end. But anyways, as he said, if you're the plugin you're gonna add does way more to improve the sound than it's gonna do by adding it, which is taking something away, then that's a good move. But if you're adding something and it's not doing really anything, you might have to ask yourself, is it worth putting it on there? Does it really make that big of a difference? So I'm going to start on this beat real quick. So let's check this out.
Yeah, that song made to my soul.
And for those of you not familiar, that is Van Morrison. Van Morrison. So this is a sample beat. So all right. So first thing I did was on this song, I wanted to kind of capture that console feel. And if you guys don't know about this plugin, it's pretty awesome. The NLS. So Spike, Mike, and Nevo. These are three famous engineers, and it's their console that these are supposed to be replicating. I know the Nevo's kind of like has like a nice harmonic richness. Uh, Mike's is I think it's an SSL board, or yeah, I can't remember what Spike's is, but Mike, I usually like that one. And you'll see I did something a little different on the mix bus with the NLS bus, but so let's see what this thing's doing. And I do want to add that a lot of what you're hearing is coming out of this mix bus. I'm not gonna, I mean, I could turn off everything but the limiter. Alright, so can can you hear that? It kind of brings like this warmth, and it brings a couple elements to the front. Let's listen to that again, off and on. So to me, right away, the snare and the acoustic, there's a couple like harder strums that it just pops. For me, it really adds a lot of depth. So I like that. All right. Next, just a little bit of carving, nothing major. So one thing you probably hear right away is some of that top end gone. It was too bright for me. A lot of problems some people have is they ended up with either a really bright mix or a super dark mix. I think most people end up with a super bright mix because everybody. I'm gonna do a high pass and I'm gonna do a high shelf. That's the move I always do. I'm gonna do it on every channel. And then at the end, they're like, well, "What the hell?" So you just got to use your ears, guys, because that's the whole thing. We're listening to music with our ears. So ultimately, do what sounds best to you, but just be conscious of what you're doing, because sometimes, like I said, you can hear right away. It, like that sounds like a ride cymbal is just super up front in your face. It's kind of offensive. So, and I do this, I'll show you guys on other mix tips, usually on the overheads, drum overhead channels. There's a huge swell from those cymbals between like 5 and 20K, and sometimes a little lower, but the cymbals sit so much better in the mix when you knock them down a little bit, because when they're so harsh, it's clashing with so many different things. I mean, to me, it's not a big move, but man, a huge. It's not even 2 decibels, and it makes a huge difference. So one more time. and we don't lose much of the snare. I actually kind of think the snare comes out a little more. And yeah, the piano darkens up a bit, but I think it's negligible. I rather like this. So, all right. And then last, what I did was, well, I felt immediately that this track didn't have enough low end for a rap track, and personally, I would probably add some some sort of like a low end bass to it, just to kind of even things out. But that's kind of what I'm doing here. I like this plugin. Some people like using RBass, which is just a simplified version of Max Bass. Um, this just has more options. And I talked about Pensado. I actually use his preset on here pretty often because I like his ratio, and it's just where I would like it. So, and the frequency's a little higher than what the fundamental bass frequency is, but as you can see, it goes all the way down to the subs. It just kind of rounds off, which is, I think, the whole idea of that. It's nice. So, um, this will not be audible unless you got some good headphones or good speakers. So, but let's check it out nonetheless.
Yeah, that's
And especially there's like that one sub right before like the chorus hook came in. When I turned it on, you could just hear it really well. So, other than that, I just added this reverb, and let's see if I can catch some here. So it's just barely. I don't even know if you'll be able to hear it, but just a little bit. And then, of course, my usual settings. Let's see what we're hitting here. So I like that. It's picking up most of the kicks, the snare, some of that bass came in. Take note, I did bump up the output a little bit. Just sounded good to me, so excuse me. So that's it for that. Let's listen to everything here. Remember, I have most of the inserts off on the mix bus. I'll be going over those, so.
Wife looked around and started sparking. Then he passed it to me. I admitted I was scary. When I hit it, everything disappeared. But the cherry, I was very high now.
Let me colorize my vocal bus. Okay. Sorry, I'm just gonna do this for the sake of the video. Alright. So let's go over the main vocal.
Wife looked around and started. Wife looked around and started.
Again, I'm gonna turn off the vocal bus stuff here. So
Pipe looked around and started sparking.
that's how I got it.
Pipe looked around and started sparking. Then he passed it to me. I admitted I was scary. When I hit it, everything disappeared. But the cherry, I was very high now.
So raw vocal. First thing. Here we go.
Pipe looked around and started sparking. Pipe looked around and started sparking.
So clean that up a bit.
Pipe looked around and started sparking.
I did a little bit of a high shelf. Cut up to 128. You can hear.
Pipe looked.
What you should do is you start, and this is a low cut, and bring it up. And when you start hearing it affect the source, back it off. And that's kind of where you should be. So.
Pipe looked.
So you can hear it there. You can still hear him. I could probably actually go.
I saw the mountains and the oceans, blew a shotty to the man in the moon and kept smoking.
Now look right here. So you can see a lot of energy when he's.
Pipe looked around and started sparking.
Here.
Then he passed it to me. I admitted I was scary. When I hit it, everything.
On the syllabants, the S's, you can see it shoot up. So.
Pipe looked around and started sparking. Then he passed it to me.
If you want to hear this.
Pipe looked around and started sparking. Then he passed it to me. I admitted I was scary. When I hit it, everything disappeared.
So what I got rid of.
Pipe looked around to me.
That's quite annoying.
Pipe looked around and started sparking.
That too. Over here. 4K guys, it's a joke, but it's not a joke. 4K is death. I have in some cases boosted, but 9 times out of 10, 4K is the devil.
Pipe looked. I admitted I was. Pipe looked spark. Pipe looked around and started sparking. Then he passed it to me. I admitted I was scary. When I hit it, everything
So, still touching up. And then actually here, I wanted some airiness out of his voice. Sometimes you can find that around 10 and 12K.
Pipe looked around and started sparking. Then he passed it to me. I admitted I was.
So hopefully you could hear that.
Pipe looked around and started sparking. Then he passed it to me.
Let's listen to that part there.
Pipe looked around and started sparking. Then he passed it to me.
Right there.
Then he passed it to me. Then he passed it to me.
Now listen.
Then he passed it to me.
You hear that?
Then he passed it to me.
Actually.
Then he passed it to me. 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 Then he passed it. Then he passed it. Then he passed it to me.
No.
Then he passed it to me.
It's also kind of. Let me see.
Then he passed it to me. Then he passed it to me. Then he passed it to me.
You know what? Yeah.
Then he passed it to me. Then he passed it to me. Then he passed it to me.
So, I think it adds a lot of high, airy lift to his voice.
Then he passed it to me. Then he passed it to me. Then he passed it to me. Then he passed. Then he passed it to me.
That's it. That's a 12 dB boost, but.
Then he passed.
So, that's it. Let's move on to. Yeah, the backups actually. I'll just do this for you real quick. All I would do is pretty much just copy these over. The There is another reason that some people may not realize is even if it has nothing on it, like if I went into here and I cleared everything, flatten it, there's still a reason for putting that plug-in on that channel. What's the reason? Latency. And it's pretty much inaudible, but you know, I've seen like 100-track sessions where the guy took an EQ and put it on 10 tracks with nothing on the EQ, just for the sole purpose to keep everything in line, because the song was so intricate. He needed everything to line up, because when you edit a song, you know, you want to make it tight and punchy. How do you, for the most part, get a tight punchy mix? Get the kick, the bass, you know, the guitar, everything perfectly in line, the waveforms, and in phase. That's how you get a tight, punchy mix. So it doesn't really need it for that in this song, but I did it just, for the EQ. But we'll listen to them.
To me, I was scary. Hit it, everything disappeared but the cherry. I was very high now, floating with half closed, with slow motion, up in the stars, mountains and the oceans. Shotty, man in the moon and kept smoke.
Okay. So that's pretty interesting, Excuse me. And these are in stereo. So that's pretty interesting too. But
To me, I was scary when I hit it.
so we're not there yet volume wise. But we'll get there.
Then he passed it to me. I admitted I was scary when I hit it.
Alright, I'm going to get to something that is really cool. I actually picked it up from, I don't think he's the originator of it, but I picked it up from Warren Hewitt. And it's a vocal thickening trick. So it sounds super weird by itself. But what you do is you take your vocal you wanna do it on. That's what I was hearing.
I admitted I was scary when I hit it. Everything disappeared but the cherry. I was very high now. I felt like I was floating. Eyes were half closed and everything was slow motion.
There you go. I was wondering, you might be wondering, but I was wondering what was going on earlier. I had a mono plug in on a stereo track, so when I engaged it, it monoized it, and it's better now. Okay, so back to this. I took it, I copied it, I think 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, yep. Now, what you do is there we go. So you got 8 of them. So in terms of panning, you go left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Okay. Now pay attention to the delay. Excuse me. So, dang. First track, 10 milliseconds. Second, 24. Now be careful. Watch here. 24, 10. So 10, 24, 24, 10. Then we do 10, 24, 24, 10. Okay. All right. Let's listen to these.
Then he passed it to me. I admitted I was scary. When I hit it, everything disappeared. But the cherry, I was very high now. I felt like I was floating. Eyes were half closed and everything was slow motion. Was way up in the stars. I saw the mountains and the oceans. Blew a shiny to the man in the moon and kept smoking.
So, on this tune, do 2, 4. Now watch, we're going to go -4, -2, and do 6, 8, -8, -6.
Then he passed it to me. I admitted I was scary. When I hit it, everything disappeared. But the cherry, I was very high now. I felt like I was floating. Eyes were half closed and everything was slow motion. Was way up in the stars. I saw the mountains and the oceans. Blew a shiny to the man in the moon and kept smoking.
Alright, sounds super weird, right? But that's just how it is. So when you bring that in,
Then he passed it to me. I admitted I was scary. When I hit it, everything disappeared. But the cherry, I was very high now. I felt like I was floating. Eyes were half closed and everything was slow motion. Was way up in the stars. I saw the mountains and the oceans. Blew a shiny.
and the whole thing behind this is to make it sound like there's multiple takes, multiple voices, thickens it up. I mean, it's a common trick in like rap and pop.
Then he passed it to me. I admitted I.
In the mix, you don't hear all that going on. You just hear the fullness. So
Then he passed it to me. I admitted I was scary. When I hit it, everything
So that is a big thing right there. That's a big trick that a lot of big time engineers use. And yeah. Okay. Then we'll just take a look here at this hook.
Yo, where the weed at? Yo.
So right away you can probably hear I put a lot of reverb on there. When the volume comes in, you'll hear it better. So, alright. You already seen me, I copied over the EQs Did that. Now, I have all of these vocals going to, and those, all the, all those are going there to vocal bus. All right. My vocal bus is going to my mix bus. My mix bus is going to my main, and then there's a print track. So you can, if you can do, this is how you would do a print track if you're gonna do digital summing that way. But in Studio One, you can just go to export mixdown. Same thing. Okay. Now, if you're gonna do analog summing, this would be the same setup, and you would choose route your output through your, say, my dangerous D box, and then back into the DAW, and then print that to a track. So you have analog summing, which is a lot warmer. But here I'll show you I'm doing digital summing. So let's listen to these one more time.
Yo, where the weed at? 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 Come on!
That's pretty basic. Now, before this video gets too long, I want to come up here and check out this delay box. Cool, huh? Alright. So that, I just took it and I chopped it up. What he says in the main here, just brought it to a new track. Alright, cool. So what I did was I threw this analog delay on it. It's a ping pong. Excuse me, guys. I got something in my throat, but I just turned down the feedback a little bit, and then you can see I did some I guess you'd call it automation, but I didn't write in automation. You just click the track and you can drop it down. That's all I did, just quicker. Actually, this one could come down. Okay. That's it there. Now, the mix bus. So I brought on an NS channel with mic. Okay.
Now once upon a starry night, I was walking home from my shitty job, as I did often, cursing out the bossin', feeling kinda crazed, was stressed to the max. I hadn't blazed in days, but my bowl at home was empty. This shit was so depressing. I hit the dealer up, but he probably gon' forget me. That's when I saw it, the type of thing you blink and miss. There's something on the ground there. Now once upon a starry night, I was walking home from my shitty job, as I did often, cursing out the bossin', feeling kinda crazed, was stressed to the max. I hadn't blazed in days, but my bowl at home was empty. This shit was so depressing. I hit the dealer up, but he probably gon' forget me.
So it sounds pretty intense like that, yeah. So I just turned that
Now
drive
once
up.
upon a starry night, I was walking home from my shitty job, as I did.
Adds a little lift, little body. Okay, did a little more EQ here. Now, mind you, this is all the vocals I'm affecting, so.
Now once upon a starry night, I was walking home from my
I liked that little like megaphone sound. Did a little cut here at around where like a snare would be. And see, took down the high end a little bit more. And I threw this de-esser. I thought he had a lot of
Now once
syllables.
upon a starry night, I was walking home from my shitty job, as I did often, cursing out the bossin', feeling kinda crazed, was stressed to the max. I hadn't blazed in days, but
So what you gotta watch out with these is not to give the guy a lisp, which he kind of had. I don't know how I got down that far, but I fixed it. It's better now.
Now once upon a starry night, I was walking home from my shitty job, as I did often, cursing out the bossin', feeling kinda crazed, was stressed to the max. I hadn't blazed in days, but
Cool. And then I just threw this Vox. It's a compressor, Renaissance compressor.
Now once upon a starry night, I was walking home from my shitty job, as I did often.
Now don't confuse loudness with that it sounds better. I just like the compression, and the makeup gain is alright.
Now once upon a starry night, I was walking home from my shitty job, as I did often, cursing out the bossin', feeling kinda crazed.
Alright, we're getting there. And then I added a little saturation to his voice, kind of rasp it up a bit.
Now once upon a starry night, I was walking home from my shitty job, as I did often, cursing out the bossin', feeling kinda crazed, was stressed to the max. I hadn't blazed.
Alright, just a little bit. And reverb on the vocal bus.
Now once upon a star.
You hear that there. Alright, and then parallel compressor.
Now once upon a starry night, I was walking home from my shitty job, as
Now you don't see it moving too much because I don't have it going in there too much, but believe me, with the API plugin, you can it still affects it even when the needle's not moving.
now once upon a starry night, I was walking home from my shitty job, as I did often.
Just kind of lifts it up. So I'll run through this mix bus really quick. So you seen I had the NSL channels, so now I bring it into a bus. The beat was on group 1, the vocals was on group 2.
Now once upon a starry night, I was walking home from my shitty job, as I did often.
I have it on 6, and you can hear right away. It just, yeah, gives you that warmth.
Now once upon a starry night, I was walking home from my shitty job.
A little more frequency hunting there.
Now once upon a starry night, I was walking.
Just got rid of that. This is a nice trick to control your low end. A lot of guys they have trouble with low end and mixes. I mean, this is part of it.
Now once upon a starry night, I was walking home from my shitty job.
Let me bring in everything else, because
Now once upon a starry night, I was walking home.
that's bypassed. Now it's engaged. Alright.
I hit the dealer up, but
I'm going to show you one other cool trick that a lot of the pros won't tell you. So stay tuned. This is my mix bus compressor. I pretty much always use this. It's just the best.
now once upon a starry night, I was walking home from my.
And I almost always use these settings too. The slowest attack, fastest release, 4:1 ratio. Actually, I usually bring this makeup gain down to like 2 decibel. And then I try to get it to hover around just like 2 decibels, peaking at 4. That's about around 2 decibels is when everything glues together. So
Now once upon a starry night, I was walking home from my shitty job, as I did often, cursing out the bossin', feeling kinda crazed, was stressed to the max. I hadn't blazed in days, but my bowl at home was empty. The shit was so depressing. I hit the dealer up, but he probably hit me. No one's as I did often, cursing out the bossing, feeling kinda crazed, was stressed to the max. I hadn't blazed in days, but my bullet home was empty. This shit was so depressing. I hit the dealer up, but he probably gon' forget me. That's when I saw it. The type of thing you blink and miss. There's something on the ground there. Is that what I think it is? Yo, it's a bag of weed. Somebody must have dropped it. I ran right over, scooped it up in my pocket. I got it home and checked it out. There wasn't nothing on it, so I let that fucker rub. Oh shit, it was the chronic. Now once upon a starry night, I was walking home from my shitty job, as I did often, cursing out the boss and feeling kinda crazed, was stressed to the max. I hadn't blazed in days, but my bullet home was empty. This shit was depressing. I hit the dealer up, but he probably gon' forget me. That's when I saw it. The type of thing you blink and miss. There's something on the ground there. Is that what I...
Alright, now, this is where it all comes together.
Now once upon a starry night, I was...
Side chain arc compressor from the vocal bus. So what's happening is I'm taking all of the vocals, I'm side chaining it into this compressor. So what does that mean? That means it's going to only compress the mix when those vocals hit it. So let's play with this.
Now once upon a starry night, I was walking home from my shitty job, as I did often, cursing out the boss and feeling kinda crazed, was stressed to the max. I hadn't blazed in days, but my bullet home was empty. This shit was so depressing. I hit the dealer up, but he probably gon' forget me. That's when I saw it. The type of thing you blink and miss. There's something on the ground there. Is that what I think it is? Yo, it's a bag of weed. Somebody must have dropped it. I ran right over, scooped it up and put it in my pocket. I got it home and checked it out. There wasn't nothing on it, so I let that fucker rub. Oh shit, it was the chronic.
Yeah, that star.
Now once upon a starry night, I was walking home from my shitty job, as I did often, cursing out the boss and feeling kinda crazed, was stressed to the max. I hadn't blazed in days, but my bullet home was empty. This shit was so depressing. I hit the dealer up, but he probably gon' forget me. That's when I saw it. The type of thing you blink and miss. There's something on the ground there. Is that what I think it is? Yo, it's a bag of weed.
Cool, so doing that, I think it just brings everything together. And then finally on the limiter, I usually go for around 9 to 10 gain reduction, because that's pretty much standard nowadays.
Now once upon a starry night, I was walking home from my shitty job, as I did often, cursing out the bar. Yo, where the weed at? Come on!
Stone me just like jelly.
Alright, so I'm gonna just turn everything off, and I'll leave the limiter on, but so you can see where we started and where we came. Now granted, the levels aren't there, but I'll solo everything so you can hear it.
I'm a certified stoner, a top tier.
Yeah, it's pretty much that, but it's pretty obvious. I mean, I think we got a great sound and mix, and as long as the client's happy, I'm happy. And
Now I'm a certified stoner, a top tier toker, the joker. Purple lemon dropping sour diesel.
Yeah.
cool, guys. Thanks for hanging out. I hope I helped you guys out with some stuff. Um, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and follow me on Facebook. It's much appreciated.
You